morning, everyone, and happy Friday. It's another Mavens Manufacturing Day, and this is the video broadcast series that features the powerful women from the shop floor to the C-suite who are changing the world through engineering and manufacturing. Today, I have two guests. I have Tamara Bradley and Kayleen, who are from EK Machine. Welcome, ladies. I'm really excited. Initially, I thought it was just going to be Tamara and myself, but Tamara, you were able to get Kayleen, and I'm really excited because she's a welder. And secretly, no one knows this about me, but I really like welding. It's one of the careers that I follow all the time. But to start off, I just want to know who both of you are. So if you can start off with a little introduction of who you are and some of the things that you do at EK, we can provide that information for our audience.
Okay. So I am the quality and process engineering manager here. So I oversee the quality department and the quality management system, as well as our process engineering group. Yeah.
How long have you been with EK?
I've been here 19 years.
Okay. And then Kayleen, you were a youth apprentice, correct? So how did you find out about EK, and what are some of the things that you're doing now?
So I found out about EK through a partnership team meeting that we had at my high school.
Okay.
So Steve Slack was on that board, and he was talking a lot about EK, and there was, I think, the state conference that I met you my senior year, I think. No, junior.
I think so.
But then I was an apprentice. I left for about a year, and then I came back. So I've been here like 3 years altogether.
Yep.
Nice. Well, before we dive into that apprenticeship part, Tamara, can you explain to us what EK does? Like, what are some of the products and services you provide, and where are you located as well, too, so that everybody can envision your location?
So we are in Fall River, Wisconsin, which is about 30 miles north of Madison, Wisconsin. We are a contract manufacturer. We actually have like two businesses. We're together but different. We're a contract manufacturer, so we serve a lot of different industries with product that is fabricated, welded, machined, and powder coated. And then our other side of the business is Power Products Packager. So we make large fuel tanks and enclosures for backup generators. So a lot of our stuff will go to like data centers or hospitals or shopping malls, all kinds of different places to help provide backup power to those facilities.
So I did not realize you were really close to where I'm from. So I'm right on the border of Wisconsin and Illinois. So I'm going to have to make a trip up there and take a facility tour and maybe do some video around that. That would be really fun. But to kind of get an understanding of how you entered into manufacturing, before I get to Kayleen, can you explain to me, what inspired you to pursue a career in engineering manufacturing? Was it something you always aspired to do? Did you kind of fall into it by accident? What was your journey like?
So when I graduated high school, what feels like forever ago now, I initially was going to go to college because that's the thing that you do next.
Right.
So I did start going to college, and I was a couple of months into it and just realized it was not a right fit for me at the time. Didn't have the money for it, didn't really know what I wanted to do there. So I actually got into manufacturing at that point. My dad is a welder. So I got into a manufacturing company where he worked as a brake press operator. So I did that for several years, ended up getting laid off, and luckily was able to get into EK Machine as a brake operator. So I did that for a while, and then there was an opening in the quality department, which had always interested me, inspecting product and just getting into the technical data analysis kind of stuff. So just over the years, I obtained some professional certifications through the American Society for Quality, and just some professional development classes and just stuff here and there, along with on-the-job training. And then just kind of worked my way into management over the years.
Nice. Well, to bring it back to Kayleen, you mentioned that you started out as their youth apprentice. You heard about EK at your high school. So can you kind of walk me through what high school was like for you and how you started to gain interest in the trade skills. Because, I'm not to show my age because it's a long time ago since I graduated high school too. When I was in high school, because I was tested high in English, that was the general direction that my student counselor was leading me into. I never really was approached to do anything in the trade. So how was your experience, Kayleen?
So when I was in high school, I was kind of awkward and I didn't really know where I fit in with. But there was one of my friends was in it and wanted me to go because they kind of knew that I was into like building stuff. And then the tech ed teacher also had me in an intro to CAD class. And he was
Okay.
even pushing for me to go in to like a skills work night and see like the super mileage cars and everything. And it just really interested me because my dad and I always like worked on cars together. So I started going to the skills and I started becoming more involved. Like I was the treasurer for skills my junior year, and I was the president of skills my senior year. So they needed a welder for their super mileage team, and that's how I got into welding.
Nice. So then how did your journey end up at EK? How did you learn about you said there was a night where you met someone and then you got onto their youth apprenticeship program. So how did that whole process go? And what were some of the things that you were doing through that apprenticeship program?
So there was a partnership team meeting, which was pretty much for the high school because my tech ed teacher was trying to get funding to build on to our already tech ed. And Steve Slack, which is now the president
here. Yep.
He came up to me and he was trying to get me to go in because he knew that I wanted to do welding, and he told me about the apprenticeship program. And then my tech ed teacher was kind of pushing me, but it was like a 35-minute drive from where I live. So I was kind of iffy about that during high school.
Yeah, that's a long distance during that time.
Yeah. But when I was actually in the apprenticeship, it was really neat because you were still going to classes because you had to be enrolled in one or two classes in high school in order to even qualify for the apprenticeship program. So you were learning in the high school, and then you were also learning hands-on with other welders. There was one welder in particular that kind of took me under his wing and like showed me how to do everything. So that was pretty neat.
That's really cool because I feel like when you have the chance to hook up with a really good mentor, the better you become at that skill and the more likely you're going to pursue that as a career pathway. So it just demonstrates the importance of really good mentors and people encouraging you. And it's really refreshing for me to hear on this side that you had a lot of encouraging people throughout high school that were pushing you to go into the trades, because I've heard, different stories where that doesn't happen with certain people. Like it happens more with guys, less with girls in some instances. But I feel like that's changing and it's really exciting because I feel like we're entering a new era in engineering and manufacturing where we're going to start to see more and more women come into the sector, especially within welding. And that's really exciting for me. When you were in high school, were you thinking about doing like a college degree type program? Is that something that's still on your radar, or are you like full force into welding and this is something that you want to keep going at and see how far you can get in?
When I was still in high school, I didn't want to go to college because the career paths that I wanted to go to weren't like a 4-year college type thing. And I just was planning on going straight into manufacturing. But between my tech ed teacher and a scholarship that I got through AWS, I actually ended up going to WCTC, which is in Pewaukee, for welding for 2 semesters, I think. And then COVID hit and they were trying to teach welding online, and it just was
That could be really difficult.
Yeah. So I kind of stopped there. I was 1 class away from getting my welding technical diploma. So I went for a little bit.
Gotcha. Well, Tamara, in that situation with Kayleen, you and I talked before this actual interview, and there's some things that EK is really doing to help their employees with continuous improvement. And you've gone through some of that stuff too. You have a ton of certifications, and there's that opportunity to grow as an employee at EK. So can you touch on some of those opportunities in ways that you are working with new employees like Kayleen who've come up through your youth apprenticeship program? Like, what's your strategy there, and why is that continuous improvement portion of EK so important for you as an employer?
So we offer tuition reimbursement here. I forget what the criteria is, but it is a pretty solid program for anybody that wants to take advantage of it. Beyond that, we bring training in. Sometimes we utilize our customers. They might provide some training, so we offer that to employees. On the job training is huge, certainly. And then just professional development classes, tech classes outside of here. Whatever we can do to help develop the employees into, being able to pursue the career path that they're interested in.
Have you found that by offering that, you're also able to retain a lot of your skilled talent, and they're not tempted to go somewhere else within the same industry?
I mean, there's always that risk, certainly, but EK's focus is definitely more on growing the pool of people, of talented people. So even with the youth apprenticeship, we've had like 40 or so over the years. Youth apprentices, we know they're not all going to stay with EK after they're done with high school, but it's more about, just filling that pool of available people in manufacturing.
So I have a question for both of you, because you're at different spectrums within the company. I want to know what a day in a life looks like for each of you at EK. So Tamara, can you start with you? And then Kayleen, when she's done, can you talk about, how your experience as a youth apprentice, some of the things that you did during that apprenticeship, and then how your responsibilities have changed since now becoming an employee? So Tamara, can we start with you?
Sure. So honestly, there's not a typical day. And it all depends on, each individual's role. In quality, certainly it's not typical. Every day's different, but that's what I love most about it. It's just ever-changing needs and requirements and priorities. It definitely keeps me on my toes. Occasionally, I would love to come in and just have a day where I just work down my checklist, but I really like the variety of it. So very involved with all kinds of different departments. Like every department here, I get to be involved with at some level, working with suppliers, working with customers. I just really like the variety of it.
What about you, Kayleen? What are some of the things that you're responsible for and working on?
So when I was an apprentice, I'd come in at like 5 and work a couple hours. And for the first couple weeks, it was me working directly with someone and just kind of getting a feel for everything. And then further down the road, they would gradually separate us. So then I was doing my own thing. But still, even then, if I needed help, I could always go and ask them or ask anybody in the shop who would know. But now I actually am one of the people that they choose to help train the apprentices. So that's cool how it kind of has swapped.
Yeah.
Right now, there's one apprentice that I have working with me right now. So it's pretty cool. I get to work with him Mondays and Wednesdays. So otherwise, it's pretty much a typical day of just getting the jobs, working on them, and every other day, it was just I get my apprentice and we get to work on stuff together.
That's really cool. So, Tamara, you've mentioned before too that you met Kayleen at a welding competition or through the youth apprenticeship program, but you also judge welding competitions, and Kayleen, that was something that you did as well too. during these competitions, what are some of the things that you're excited about and you're looking for? And are those opportunities for you as a company to also recruit more employees to come work with EK? Is that something that you do? Can you explain a little bit what happens at these welding competitions?
Sure. So EK provides a lot of materials, the actual weld coupons and actual materials that they need for these events. Beyond that, we send people to be volunteers and judges at the events too. So I think one of my first interactions with Kayleen was being able to judge her work and the work of others at the Skills USA competition. But then it was just a couple of months ago, I think, that we got to judge together a welding competition for
Kind
Skills
of a
USA.
last minute throw in.
Right.
That's really cool. So from an employer's perspective, Tamara, what are some of the things that you're doing to continue with that community outreach outside of the welding competitions? Because I'm sure you know and can feel it as well. Manufacturers are continuing to struggle to get skilled talent through the door. And welding is actually one of those areas that people are having a hard time getting new employees through the door. And there's conversations surrounding not just, getting the younger generation's attention and attracting them to this type of sector, but also retaining them once they are hired on. So what are some of the things in particular that EK is doing as a company to get the next generation like Kayleen excited about the skills trades and then wanting to pursue something like welding? And then what do you do to keep them at EK other than the tuition reimbursement, which I think is really important? What other things are you doing?
So school tours are huge. It was just a couple of weeks ago we had our first in-person school tour again after forever. So
That's
that was
awesome.
fantastic. Yeah, it was a really great group of kids from Portage. They were super, super interactive and asked great questions. So that was really exciting to see and be able to interact with them again. We've done job shadows. So if somebody's interested in manufacturing, we'll bring them in and they can kind of shadow somebody, maybe shadow a few people so that they can kind of get a taste for what a day in the life is like, which I think is great because, they can kind of get a feel for it before they kind of commit to that path. I think that's definitely been beneficial. Beyond that, we definitely do a lot of outreach with local school districts, help out where we can, sit on boards or, maybe as advisors, and also monetary donations for helping them bring in new equipment and keep their tech programs rolling.
Nice. So as part of Mavens of Manufacturing, one of my focus is not to just get more of the next generation to come into manufacturing and engineering, but focus specifically on women as well too, because we're still at a low percentage representation. And I think we can do a lot better in recruiting women into the sector and get them interested in skills trades. So Kayleen, my next question for you is, when you were going through high school and even now, what is the percentage like for other women in welding? Have you been one of two, one of three, or are you seeing more women like yourself coming into the trades? And if not, what sort of advice or thought process do you have to get girls like you into the trade skills?
So when I was just out of the apprenticeship program, there was one other chick that was in welding with me. She ended up leaving, but when I was gone for a year, I didn't work with any chicks. There was a very small amount in my college classes. So I don't really think there's too many going in still. But if I would have to encourage them, I would tell them, don't be afraid. The guys are just guys. They're not going to do anything. They'll give you a hard time, but you can probably just beat them in whatever you're doing. Because in welding, it's pretty common for females to actually be better welders because we pay more attention to details and we go off of more than just, oh, this weld looks good. We go off of like sound. We use other sensory things that most guys typically don't think of. Like we see it more as an art skill, I guess I would say.
That's interesting because I actually read an article on why women tend to be better welders than men. And one of the things that it said is that women have better balance as well too for some of the welds that you need to do, which was interesting to me because I have zero balance whatsoever and I'm really clumsy. So I just thought that was kind of an interesting stat with that report. I'm going to have to share that in the show notes because it's just interesting how different skill traits can be separated on your skill set, whether you're a man or a woman. And it's just really interesting, like psychology stuff and research information. But there was another post too that I read on LinkedIn where, there is this kind of sense of intimidation for certain people to join the sector. And I think it's just because they don't see people that look like them. And it's really not that intimidating at all. And I think once people can get over that hump and see how fun it is, and then just the men that I've talked to too, who are advocates for bringing in more diverse groups, I mean, they're amazing. They're willing to go out of their way and help people and answer any questions and actually be mentors to women too. So it's just getting over those misconceptions that I think we've had for so many years and actually trying it out, I think would be a great way, because I've met a lot of guys too that are just like, yeah, I'll teach you this, I'll teach you that. And they go out of their way and are like some of the greatest mentors to women in engineering and manufacturing. So, well, I wanted to thank both of you for coming today and joining me for Mavens of Manufacturing. Before I let you go, I wanted to just get some advice from you as well too. So I know that Kayleen provided some advice, but Tamara, I would like to know, for anyone interested in engineering or manufacturing, or who might be at the point that Kayleen was, and even myself, I didn't really know what I wanted to do in high school. What would you say to them? What would your pitch be to get them to think about engineering and manufacturing as a career pathway?
I think try it out. I mean, there's no harm in trying it if it just doesn't pan out to be what you like. You can, like, manufacturing has so many different options. So even if you start somewhere and you're not digging it, like, you can sidestep like crazy in manufacturing. There's just so many pathways that you can take. So I think there's just so many opportunity that just try it.
I agree. I'm just a writer. I'm a technical writer, and I ended up in engineering and manufacturing, and I love it. And I love listening to stories like Kayleen's too, and hearing about welding, because I just think it's a really cool process and talent to have. So I'll be following you a lot more, Kayleen, to see what you're making. But if anybody wants to come to EK for a tour and see upfront and personal what you're actually doing, who can they contact and where should they go for any more information?
They can definitely reach out to me. Kayleen's on LinkedIn, or go to our website, and you can make contact with somebody that way too. Certainly, our doors are open for tours.
Awesome. Well, thanks you both for coming on and sharing your stories. I really appreciate the time that you're taking. And if there's anything else that I can do to help you going forward, please let me know. For all those that tuned in, thank you again, and make sure to come back next week for another Mavens of Manufacturing episode. Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
This episode of Mavens has been sponsored by Fresh Horizons Group. Fresh Horizons Group is a family-run company that was founded on the premise of helping organizations and businesses better tell their story through high-quality branded apparel and promotional items. Freshen up your brand by contacting Fresh Horizons today at freshhorizonsgroup.com.